Hey you! Yeah, you scrolling through YouTube, looking for something to spark a change in your life. Let me ask you this. Do you ever feel like the world's throwing chaos at you? Work stress, endless notifications, or just that nagging sense that you're not in control? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. But here's the good news. There's a 2,000-year-old philosophy that's been helping people thrive in chaos for centuries, and it's more relevant than ever in 2025. Welcome to Master Your Mind in 2025, 5 Stoic Habits to Thrive in Chaos. I'm Stoic Strategy, and today we're diving deep into Stoicism, 5 practical habits you can start using today to take back control of your mind and live a better life. Before we jump in, hit that like button if you're ready to level up your mental game, and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss more videos like this. Got a story about overcoming chaos in your life? Drop it in the comments. I'm reading every single Hawkins reply, and I'll pick one to share at the end. All right, let's get started. Let's set the stage. It's 2025 and life in the US is intense. Inflation's pinching wallets, groceries are more expensive than ever, gas prices are through the roof, and don't even get me started on rent in cities like New York or San Francisco. Social media's got us comparing ourselves to everyone else. Scroll through Instagram, and it's all perfect lives, curated feeds, and people flexing their new cars or vacations. Meanwhile, the 24/7 news cycle is like a fire hose of anxiety. Constant updates about political tensions, climate disasters, and economic uncertainty. Sound familiar? I bet it does. Now imagine a way to stay calm, focused, and in control, no matter what life throws at you. That's where Stoicism comes in. Stoicism is a philosophy founded in ancient Greece by a guy named Zeno of Citium around 300 BCE. But it really hit its stride in Rome with heavyweights like Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled during a time of plagues and endless wars, Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher who taught resilience through hardship, and Seneca, a playwright and advisor who navigated the dangerous politics of Emperor Nero's court. These guys weren't sitting in ivory towers writing abstract theories. They faced real, gritty challenges: wars, exile, betrayal, and even death threats. Yet, they stayed unshaken. Why? Because Stoicism teaches you to focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. Let's talk about Marcus Aurelius for a moment. He was the most powerful man in the world during his reign, but his life was far from easy. He dealt with the Antonine Plague, which killed millions across the Roman Empire, constant military campaigns on the borders, and even a betrayal from one of his trusted generals who tried to overthrow him. Despite all that, he stayed grounded. In his journal, which we now know as Meditations, he wrote things like, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's the kind of wisdom we need in 2025, when life feels like a whirlwind. In 2025, Stoicism's having a moment. From Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic, which has millions of followers across platforms, to YouTube channels breaking down Stoic principles for modern life, people are turning to this ancient wisdom to navigate today's chaos. Even celebrities and athletes, like NBA stars and tech CEOs, are talking about how Stoicism helps them stay focused in high-pressure environments. And today we're going to unpack 5 Stoic habits that'll help you do the same. These aren't just theories. They're practical tools you can apply right now to start feeling more in control. Ready? Let's dive into habit number 1. Picture this. It's Monday morning. You're stuck in traffic on your way to work, late for a big meeting, and your boss just texted you about a deadline that's been moved up to tomorrow. Your heart's racing, you're gripping the steering wheel, and your mind's spiraling into worst-case scenarios. I'm going to get fired. I'll never make rent. My life's over. Sound familiar? Most of us stress about things we can't control, like traffic, other people's opinions, or even the economy. But here's what Epictetus, one of the OG Stoics, said. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This is Stoic habit number 1. Focus on what you can control. The Stoics believed everything in life falls into 2 buckets. Things you can control, like your thoughts, actions, and attitude, and things you can't, like the weather, other people's behavior, or global events. Stress comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Epictetus actually wrote a whole book about this called the Enchiridion, which is like a Stoic handbook for life. In it, he says that if you focus on what's outside your control, you'll be miserable. But if you focus on your own choices and responses, you'll find peace. Let's break it down with a real-world example. Say you're up for a promotion at work, but your co-worker's been schmoozing the boss, taking credit for your ideas, and you're fuming. You can't control your co-worker's actions or your boss's decision. They're going to do what they're going to do. But you can control how well you prepare, how you present yourself, and how you handle rejection if it comes. Maybe you put together a killer presentation, showcasing your contributions, or you have a calm, professional conversation with your boss to set the record straight. Focusing on those things keeps you grounded and productive, instead of spiraling into resentment or self-doubt. Here's another scenario: the 2025 election cycle. If you're in the US, you know it's a wild time. Political ads are everywhere, debates are heated, and maybe your family group chat is blowing up with arguments about candidates. You can't control the outcome of the election or what your cousin thinks about tax policies, but you can control how much time you spend doom scrolling on social media or how you respond in those family chats. Maybe you decide to limit your news intake to 10 minutes a day, or you set a boundary and say, hey, let's talk about something else at dinner. That's Stoic power in action, focusing on what you can control and letting go of the rest. Action step: try the control dichotomy exercise. Grab a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On one side, write, things I can control, and list stuff like your effort, your mindset, or how you spend your time. On the other, write, things I can't control, and list things like other people's opinions, the weather, or the outcome of a project. Spend 5 minutes daily reviewing this list to rewire your brain. Over time, you'll start catching yourself when you're stressing about things outside your control, and you'll redirect that energy to what you can do. Here's how this habit played out for me recently. I was working on a big project for a client, and they kept changing their requirements at the last minute. I was so frustrated. I felt like I was wasting my time, and I started stressing about whether they'd even like the final product. Then I remembered this Stoic principle. I couldn't control the client's indecisiveness, but I could control how I approached the work. So I set up a clear communication plan with them, focused on doing my best, and decided that their reaction was out of my hands. The project ended up being a success, but more importantly, I felt so much calmer throughout the process. Pause for a second. Think about something stressing you out right now. Is it something you can control? Drop it in the comments and let's talk about it. This habit changed my life when I stopped obsessing over what people thought of me and started focusing on my own work. It's like a mental declutter. Let's move to habit number 2. This next habit might sound a little weird, but stick with me. It's a game changer. It's called negative visualization, or in Latin, premeditatio malorum, which means premeditating on evils. Don't worry, it's not about being a pessimist or dwelling on the negative. It's about mentally preparing for life's curveballs so they don't knock you out when they happen. The Stoics, like Seneca, would imagine worst-case scenarios, not to scare themselves, but to reduce their emotional grip. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about it. How often do you lie awake at night worrying about something that never happens? Maybe you're stressed about a job interview, picturing yourself forgetting every answer, or you're anxious about a first date, imagining them walking out mid-meal. Negative visualization flips that anxiety into strength by showing you that you can handle the worst, and it's usually not as bad as you think. Seneca used this practice all the time. He lived in a dangerous era, serving as an advisor to Emperor Nero, who was known for his erratic and violent behavior. Seneca knew his life was at risk every day, so he'd imagine losing everything: his wealth, his status, even his life. In one of his letters, he wrote about how he'd practice poverty, living for a few days with just bread and water, to remind himself that he could survive with very little. This wasn't about being gloomy. It was about building resilience. And you know what? It worked. When Nero eventually ordered Seneca to take his own life, he faced his death with incredible calm because he'd already prepared for it in his mind. Here's how it works in 2025. Let's say you've got a big presentation coming up at work. Instead of stressing, take a minute to imagine the worst-case scenario. You stumble over your words, the projector fails, or someone asks a tough question you can't answer. Now ask yourself, could I handle it? Spoiler alert, you could. Maybe you take a deep breath, crack a joke to lighten the mood, or say, "Great question. I'll get back to you with more details." By visualizing the worst, you realize it's not the end of the world, and you're ready for anything. Let's try another example. Say you're a freelancer and you're worried about losing a big client. That income is what's keeping you afloat. Negative visualization would have you imagine that happening. The client emails you saying they're going with someone else. What would you do? Maybe you'd reach out to your network for new opportunities, update your portfolio, or take an online course to add a new skill. By picturing the worst, you've got a plan in place, and the fear loses its grip on you. And here's the best part. Most of the time, the worst doesn't happen, but you've trained your brain to stay calm either way. Story time. I once bombed a public speaking gig, froze mid-sentence, face burning, in front of a room full of people. I thought my career was over. I spent weeks beforehand worrying about messing up, but I hadn't prepared for how I'd handle it if I did. When it happened, I panicked. But you know what? The audience clapped anyway, and I got another chance to speak a month later. This time, I nailed it. If I'd used negative visualization, I could have saved myself weeks of worry by realizing I'd survived the flop. Action. Step. Spend 2 minutes each morning visualizing one challenge you might face that day. Maybe a tough conversation with your partner, a work setback, or even something small like your internet crashing during a Zoom call. Picture it vividly, then imagine how you'd respond calmly. For example, if your internet crashes, maybe you'd text your team, "Hey, tech issues. Give me a sec to reconnect," and then switch to your phone's hotspot. This trains your brain to stay cool under pressure. I've been using this habit for a while now, and it's been a lifesaver. Last month, I had to travel for a family event, and I was so worried about flight delays. I had a tight schedule, and missing my connection would have thrown everything off. So I visualized the worst. My flight gets delayed. I miss the event, and I'm stuck at the airport. Then I thought, okay, what would I do? I'd call my family to let them know, find a coffee shop in the airport, and catch up on some emails. When the day came, my flight was actually on time. But I felt so much more relaxed because I was ready for anything. Quick question. What's one worst-case scenario you're worried about right now? Share it in the comments and I'll give you a Stoic tip to tackle it. Alright, let's hit habit number 3. Ever feel like your thoughts are a tangled mess, like a ball of yarn you can't unravel? Stoic habit number 3 is your mental untangler. Keep a Stoic journal. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor we mentioned earlier, didn't just rule an empire. He wrote Meditations, a personal journal that's basically a Stoic masterpiece. He wasn't writing for fame or to impress anyone. He was reflecting to stay grounded amidst the chaos of leading Rome. Journaling helps you process emotions, spot patterns in your thinking, and align your actions with your values. It's like a daily check-in with your inner Stoic. Marcus wrote stuff like, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's the kind of clarity journaling unlocks. It helps you see where your mind's getting stuck and how to shift it. Let's look at how Marcus used this habit. He'd often write at night after a long day of dealing with the empire's problems. Everything from military strategies to court politics. He'd reflect on what went well, what didn't, and how he could improve. For example, in one passage, he wrote about getting frustrated with someone's incompetence, then reminded himself that it's human to make mistakes, and his job was to respond with patience, not anger. That kind of self-reflection kept him steady, even when the world around him was falling apart. Here's a modern example. Let's say you're frustrated because your colleague took credit for your idea during a team meeting. Without reflection, you might stew in anger, maybe even snap at them in front of everyone, which could backfire. But in your Stoic journal, you write, "I'm upset because I value recognition. But I can't control my colleague's actions. I can control how I respond. Maybe I'll calmly clarify my contribution in the next meeting or focus on doing great work, so my value speaks for itself." Suddenly, you're back in the driver's seat and you've turned a negative emotion into a plan of action. Let's try another scenario. Say you're a student and you just got a lower grade on an exam than you expected. You're beating yourself up, thinking, "I'm a failure. I'll never get into grad school." In your Stoic journal, you might write, "I'm disappointed because I studied hard, but I can't change the grade now. What can I control? I can talk to my professor for feedback, adjust my study habits, and focus on the next exam." That reflection helps you move from self-criticism to solutions. Action step. Start a Stoic journal with this simple prompt. What challenged me today and how did I respond? What could I do better tomorrow? Write for 5 minutes before bed. If you're not a writer, record a voice memo on your phone or type it in your notes app. The key is consistency. Do it every day for a week and you'll start noticing patterns. Maybe you'll see that you're always stressed about work deadlines and you can start planning your tasks better. Or maybe you'll notice you're hard on yourself when you make mistakes and you can work on self-compassion. I've been journaling for a year and it's like having a Stoic mentor in my pocket. It's helped me catch myself when I'm overreacting to small things, like when I got upset over a delayed flight a few months ago. I wrote about it, realized I couldn't control the airline, and decided to use the extra airport time to read a book I'd been meaning to finish. That simple reflection turned a frustrating moment into a productive one. Who's ready to try this? Let me know in the comments if you're starting a journal, and I'll cheer you on. Next up, habit number 4. We're bombarded with messages telling us we need more money, more followers, more stuff. Open TikTok, and you'll see influencers flexing their designer bags or tropical vacations. Scroll through LinkedIn, and everyone's announcing their new job or promotion. It's easy to feel like you're not enough. But Stoic habit number 4 flips the script. Practice gratitude like a Stoic. The Stoics believed true happiness comes from appreciating what you already have, not chasing what you don't. Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." In 2025, when social media's got us comparing our lives to influencers, this habit is a lifeline. Epictetus, by the way, had every reason to be bitter. He was born a slave, endured physical hardship, and was eventually exiled by the Roman Emperor Domitian. Yet he focused on what he did have: his mind, his ability to reason, and his freedom to choose his attitude. That's Stoic gratitude. Here's a story. A friend of mine, Sarah, was miserable at her corporate job in Chicago. She was always complaining about her long commute on the L train, her micromanaging boss, and the fact that she hadn't gotten a raise in 2 years. Then she tried a Stoic gratitude practice. Every day she listed 3 things she was grateful for, like her health, her supportive partner, and even her morning coffee from Dunkin'. Within weeks she felt lighter. Her circumstances didn't change. She was still on that crowded train every morning, but her perspective did. She started noticing small joys, like the way the sunrise looked over Lake Michigan on her commute, or how her coworker always shared funny memes to brighten the day. Let's take another example. Maybe you're a parent, and you're feeling overwhelmed. Kids are screaming. You're juggling work from home Zoom calls, and the house is a mess. It's easy to focus on what's going wrong, but a Stoic gratitude practice would have you pause and think, "I'm grateful for my kids' laughter, even if they're loud. I'm thankful I have a job, even if it's stressful. I'm glad I have a home, even if it's messy right now." That shift in focus can turn a chaotic day into a meaningful one. The Stoics took gratitude even further with a practice called memento mori, remembering that you'll die. Sounds intense, but it's powerful. Seneca would remind himself that everything he had, his family, his home, his life, was temporary. That made him appreciate it more. So, when you're thinking about what you're grateful for, imagine how you'd feel if those things were gone. If you're grateful for your morning coffee, picture a day without it. Maybe there's a shortage or you're sick and can't taste it. That makes you savor it even more. Action step. Try the Stoic gratitude list. Each morning, write or say 3 things you're grateful for. Be specific, like, "I'm grateful for my cozy hoodie on this chilly day," or "I'm thankful for my coworker's joke that made me laugh." Bonus points. Reflect on how you'd feel if those things were gone. It makes you appreciate them even more. Do this for 30 days, and I promise you'll start noticing the good stuff more than the bad. Gratitude's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. I started this practice last year, and it's changed how I see my day. I used to wake up dreading my to-do list, but now I start by appreciating the sunrise outside my window, or the fact that I get to do work I love, like making this video for you. What's one thing you're grateful for today? Drop it in the comments and let's spread some positivity. All right, final habit. Let's wrap this up strong. Life's tough sometimes, no sugarcoating it. Maybe you're dealing with a health issue, a strained relationship, or financial stress. But Stoic habit number 5 is about turning pain into power. Embrace adversity as opportunity. The Stoics saw obstacles as chances to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This idea is at the heart of Stoicism. The Stoics believed that life's challenges aren't here to break you, they're here to shape you. Think about a time you faced a setback, maybe a breakup, a job loss, or a health scare. It sucked, right? But looking back, did it teach you something? Maybe you discovered your strength, learned to set better boundaries, or found a new path. That's the Stoic mindset. Adversity isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. Let's look at Epictetus again. As a slave, he had no control over his early life. His master could beat him, sell him, or worse. But he used that hardship to develop an unshakable mindset. Once he gained his freedom, he became a teacher, and his lectures, later written down by his student Arian, focused on how to turn suffering into growth. He'd say things like, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's the essence of this habit. Here's an example. In 2024, I got laid off from a job I loved. I was gutted. I'd poured my heart into that role, and suddenly I was out the door due to budget cuts. I could have spiraled into self-pity, blaming the company or the economy. But instead, I used Stoic principles to reframe it. I asked, what can I control? I could update my resume, learn new skills, and network. That adversity pushed me to start this YouTube channel, and now I'm connecting with all of you. What felt like a disaster became the best thing that ever happened to me. Let's say you're dealing with a different kind of adversity. Maybe you're trying to get fit, but you keep falling off your workout routine. Instead of beating yourself up, a Stoic would say, "This is an opportunity." Maybe your struggle is showing you that your schedule's too packed, and you need to carve out dedicated time for exercise. Or maybe it's teaching you patience. Progress takes time, and every small step counts.